Welcome to the Innovation World podcast, your go-to source for all things innovation, invention, and entrepreneurship. Our website is www.innovationworld.org.
So welcome to the Innovation World podcast series. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to be here, have some wonderful guests to talk to. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. I am Julie Shively. I am with Innovation World and the Global Innovation Field Trip, and very happy to be here today. And co-host Jake Mendelson. Say hello, Jake.
Hello, Jake.
Thank you, Jake. Couple reminders before we get started. We just completed the July Global Innovation Field Trip a couple weeks ago, and all of the videos are online now for you to take a look at. You could go to globalinnovationfieldtrip.org. Click on the presenters menu option, and you can pick from every single gift program that we have done. Jake, do you have any idea how many presenters or a ballpark we've done now?
It's over 500 presenters, and it's over 450 presentations, something in that ballpark.
And are we sitting at 43 countries having participated now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So lots and lots of wonderful content for you to take a look at, both with young innovators and program leaders who inspire and support innovation. So when you have a chance, go take a look. Our next Global Innovation Field Trip happens on October 16th, 17th?
Yep, 16, 17.
And we've already started taking registration. So please go out, sign up to register to be a part of this wonderful 24-hour global celebration of young innovators from across the world. And before you ask me, Jake, what it costs, it costs nothing to be a part of the Global Innovation Field Trip, just your time. You can be an attendee and watch one, two, or all of the 60 plus presentations we'll have over that 24-hour period. Or please think about being a presenter and sharing what you've innovated with the rest of the world. That's all I've got, Jake. Any updates you'd like to give?
No, that's quite enough. That was pretty good.
Okay. Well, with that, then why don't we go ahead and get started? We have two wonderful guests with us today, Erin Tochen from InventEd and David Coronado from the Lemelson Foundation. And not sure that's who you're both representing today. You both might be representing one or the other organization, so I'll let you get into that. Provide us maybe your background, where you're from, and go right into what you'd like to share with us today. And then if there's still time left, Jake and I would love to ask a couple questions.
David, I'll let you start.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good night for those and across the world. I'm here representing the Lemelson Foundation, and we have certainly been a supporter and key kind of chief architect of building InventEd. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about the foundation of, why do we care about this work? What are we doing? So over the past 25 years, the Lemelson Foundation, we've been committed to invention. I think we're the only foundation in the US, maybe even around the world, committed to invention. You see, one of our founders was Jerry Lemelson, affectionately. He was an inventor with over 600 patents to his name. And both he and his wife, Dorothy, created the foundation with the vision of cultivating future generations of inventors to create a better world. So really, to think about this, to enable this vision, we really need the people and the systems to make this happen. We support programs and organizations who can really build capacity both at the K-12 and higher education level, where we need to enable students to have meaningful invention education experience to develop the critical invention mindsets and skill sets they're going to need for the future. And we need them to be ready to create inventions and build invention-based businesses that really change our world. We've been working in this for a number of years, and we do this both in the United States and abroad in low to middle income countries. So that's just a little bit about the Lemelson Foundation, and love to talk to you more about how we do our work.
And I'm Erin Tochen. I work closely with David to build InventEd, which is a national network of educators, researchers, funders, government agencies, and other supporters who are building the field of invention education and raising awareness of invention education's value in supporting the development and application of student STEM skills and mindset. And this is an initiative that David really launched about 4 years ago with an annual convening that started with about 25 organizations. And this last year, it grew to nearly 100 organizations participating in the convening, all gathering together to celebrate Invention Education, connect and learn and share with one another, to talk about what they're doing in Invention Education, and to identify gaps and priorities in order to collaborate to continue to build this field. So it's a network that is growing, that we are excited to see growing, and that we are looking to bring in new folks into this network to help us work collaboratively and build the field.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information for both of you. And I see you guys around everywhere. I listen to NPR and always hearing about Lemelson on NPR. I'm always seeing you, Erin, everywhere out there. I mean, you're so many connections. You are making so many connections out there, and part of multiple different networks, I think, that really help push it out farther and faster. What do you see coming up for InventEd? I know that we had some conversations through the Alliance about some stuff you're doing in October.
Yeah. Well, so let me take a step back and maybe just talk a little bit about sort of some of the long-term thinking we're doing around InventEd and sort of its role in this space of invention education. Our vision is to make invention education mainstream and integrated in classrooms and programs across the country. And so in doing so, we really want to act collaboratively, be supportive and inclusive of all perspectives, and frankly, sort of embody the inventive spirit. If we're supporting invention, we should also be thinking as inventors ourselves in the development of this field and the development of this network. So being curious, empathetic, sort of problem-based and solution-oriented. And as I just sort of mentioned, this is sort of like the short and medium term goals, is to really sort of grow this network, to bring in people and organizations that are doing invention education, but they may not necessarily be calling it that, and who are maybe seeking sort of new collaborations of their own, and where they can be bringing in new perspective. And so, in order to do that, we want to be able to identify partnerships in order to reach new audiences, specifically thinking about funders, agencies, private sector partnerships that we can be collaborating with and leveraging to build awareness for invention education. We're also sort of seeking, looking for opportunities to be learning and sharing with each other. This is the focus of a lot of my work with the network, is building those connection points and those touch points for people in this community to get together, to be learning about what others are doing, and then seeking out opportunities to deepen those conversations and potential collaborations. So one of the ways in which we do that is, bringing people together for community calls and for webinars. So we actually have, and I'm sort of excited to share this with everyone, we have several series that we're launching this fall. The first is a back to school learning series that will start September 14th. And that webinar is really focused around how do we go about re-engaging students in invention education as students and teachers return to classrooms, and what role can invention education play in that re-engagement of students? Who are the players that we would like to see involved in reshaping and re-envisioning what education can look like, and how invention education can play a critical role in that. We'll have 2 other webinars as part of that series. One in October that is really for educators. It's really sort of a practicum for educators to do a deep dive into what does invention education actually look like in the classroom. I think we have a lot of conversations about invention education is really important. We should all be doing it. But what does it look like practically integrated into your classroom, all the way from the early grades, through high school, and sort of even thinking about workforce development and beyond. It's an opportunity to bring sort of veteran invention educators together with folks who are new, to be learning together. And then the final webinar as part of that series will be around workforce development, sort of carrying through this theme about all the different stages of invention education. So that's our back to school webinar series. We're also launching a series this fall that's really doing a deep dive into invention education research. So highlighting some of the researchers in this community who are helping to build this field. We'll have the first one in August, and then we'll have at least one more, maybe two more this fall around topics related to student competitions, assessment and evaluation, and then the role of parents in supporting students on their STEM and invention pathway and what that sort of looks like. So we're pretty excited to get those launched. That's a series we'd like to see carried through 2022 as well. And then the final, I'm throwing a lot of information out, but the final series that we are putting together, I'm putting sort of the final pieces in place, is really specifically for educators, building on that October webinar that I was just talking about, that practicum for invention educators, is bringing educators together from various networks to be learning from one another and sort of deepening that community of practice. So bringing those veteran invention educators and folks who are new to invention education to be learning together, to be taking on topics that are relevant for them in their classrooms. So we'll build on that October webinar and do a chat over Twitter in November with one of our superstar invention educator teachers. His name is Doug Scott, to really experiment with using Twitter as a way to bring educators together to facilitate a conversation around invention education and what it looks like at the different grade levels. So that was a lot of information. We have a lot going on this fall. Really looking forward to diving into these conversations and then carrying them through into 2022 as well. I might go over to David and ask if, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything?
I think you were comprehensive.
I think so.
Can I ask a question? And this is something you touched on just briefly, but I was wondering, either Erin or David, if you could go over it in a little bit more detail. When I would say invention education to parents, to school officials, they go, oh yeah, we're going to teach the kids to be inventors. They're going to make a lot of money. And I looked at your motto, and it's the Lemelson Foundation. It doesn't say making money through invention. It says improving lives through invention. Can you dig a little deeper into that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think while you certainly can make a lot of money off of inventions, that certainly is not our intent. I think when we look around, when I talk to parents and I talk to, follow-up policymakers, I mean, the reality is our kids are facing a future of complex problems, and we're seeing them now. We have climate change, global health. I mean, it's global health. It's not even health issues abroad. It's in the US. Water quality. These are all US issues, and they're global issues. We're also seeing just the technologies around the world are changing at such a fast pace. We don't necessarily feel like we're educating our students and with the content and the skills and mindsets they need to be prepared for the future. We're seeing talent shortages across the board for this new 21st century jobs that are out there. And we're also realizing that in terms of those who create things in our world, 90% are male and 95% are Asian or white. So we're missing a whole sector of brain power and thoughts and ideas that we want to bring to the world. So when I talk to families, I say, look, these are the things our world is facing and our country here in the United States, but around the world we're facing. And that's consistent with a lot of folks I've talked to, especially in the Innovation World Alliance. There's a lot of common issues there. But at the end of the day, we need to prepare students for a better tomorrow, and they want to create the better tomorrow. And so I think around, we feel like all youth should be inventive. Invention education is a life skill. When a young person can see problems in their world and have the capabilities to be able to solve them, that's so powerful. I've worked, prior to joining the foundation, I was a practitioner doing invention education and leading programs, and worked predominantly with low income and diverse students. And so one of the things I found is when you can teach individuals who've been marginalized for such a long time that they can't actually see problems in the world. They can see them, they don't know how to solve them or feel like they have the capability to solve them. That is so powerful. We've seen students literally break cycles of poverty through their knowledge of like seeing a problem and solving it. And they, as low income kids and diverse kids, you're gonna have a lot of these in life. So I think what I'm trying to say, Jake, is we want a better tomorrow, and kids want to have agency in their path. They don't want someone telling them, hey, you got to go work for this major company or work for this fast food restaurant. They want to be able to choose whether they want to go to college and choose what the problem is in life they want to solve. My life has been blessed in the sense that I've been able to have agency, being taught how to think for myself, see problems, solve them, and to be able to change my own life as a low-income Latino student. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to have these skills. So it's a life skill, and I think everyone should have it.
I have a question for you as well. You touched on policymakers, and earlier when Erin was talking, I was thinking about the government agencies that are out there right now that are helping drive or regulate the education that we have in our public schools and even some of the private schools. And just wonder, do we have the ear yet of these policymakers? Are we in the right place as a movement to get to the right people, to get them to understand that this should have always been in school, but okay, it wasn't. Now let's get it there, and let's equip these students with the tools that they need to practice problem solving every single day. I mean, I'm not working with any policymakers or education or government agencies, but it sounds like you might be. And I'm just wondering how receptive they are at this point.
Yeah, I think that we're in a new moment today around both government policymaker and federal agencies, and even the executive branch have interest in both invention and innovation. I think the reality is that most people understand that invention and innovation are critical to the US's competitiveness, around the world. They also realize we have complex problems we need solutions for. Think about COVID. Have we not had the right innovators in place, we would not have a vaccine put in place at record pace, right? The technology was already there, we built upon it. So I think the agencies are there. One of the most interesting things, this current federal 5-year STEM plan actually for the first time includes invention and innovation in it, and the need to not only have it in our US economy, but also that they are interested in developing this in the K-12 and higher education space. And so the word they use is transdisciplinary learning, which is one of these other complex terms. But the reality is a lot of it is invention education is closely aligned with transdisciplinary learning. So that was monumental to see that in the 5-year STEM plan. We're also seeing other agencies pay attention with the Biden administration Build Back Better platform. There's a lot of interest in innovation and also around addressing inequity. And we also see invention education as an opportunity to address inequities for youth to be able to, again, see problems, solve them, and have these life skills. There's other agencies that are looking at the problem from a different perspective, but it all ties down to a pipeline. And I'm seeing this in other countries as well, whether it's in China or Vietnam. It's like, how do you create this critical talent pool for the future? United States Patent and Trademark Office is seeing this around the world too, around patenting and who gets the patent, and finding that, look, hey, we're missing a whole segment of our society. If I think the statistics that was pulled out by the research report, the life cycle of an inventor, or mainstream media calls the Lost Einsteins report, with Van Reenen and Ross Shetty, et cetera, points out that if you were able to meet that equity gap, and you had women and you had people of color inventing at equal rates, and then I think the economy in the US would quadruple. So the United States Patent and Trademark Office is looking at that. Department of Education is also looking at transdisciplinary learning. So I think we're in the right space to say, yes, they are acknowledging that there's this huge problem. And we're not just acknowledging it, we're actually looking at possible collaborations on how to implement that. National Science Foundation is also looking at doing more research around transdisciplinary learning. What does it mean to do this type of open-ended problem solving in youth? Because it is open-ended. It's not teaching content, it's teaching a process and a way of thinking, and you use content to build the things you're, so I think we're in a good spot, Julie. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and I think that's where, at InventEd, as a member ourselves, we're always thinking, how can we speak with one more voice? What are the agencies we need to work with, and how do we elevate this so that more are not only knowledgeable of the problem, but also have examples of how do you actually get this done across the board? Because I think that's the one thing we're all working on is we can point to a program, but a program can't solve the education gap. So we have to figure out what is the practice and field of invention education, what is the pedagogy, what is the true approach, and how do we be able to scale that across the country in different contexts, from rural to urban to low income and to wealthy. So I think we're getting there, Julie, but we still have a lot of work to be done.
If I can just ask a question as a former teacher, we were always, as teachers, being evaluated. Yeah. Did your kids improve? How much did they improve? What do you, And so the question is, I firmly believe in this, but what have you done within the school systems to prove the evaluation, to give an assessment? How do you document the progress that this program is making in students' lives?
Exactly. I will always say that I think that evaluation and assessment are important. It's what you evaluate and assess, right? And I think, as you're pointing out, you've been evaluated as an educator and students around, do you know how to memorize content? Yeah. And so I think there's a movement even beyond InventEd around different ways of assessing students' growth in both mindsets, which is a difficult area in research to actually figure out. Like, they haven't come to conclusion like how to measure mindset growth, versus it's easier to say, hey, a student knows how to do an algebraic function. So I think there's a movement across the board from Nation of Makers. All sorts of other organizations are looking at portfolio-based education, which is that students are presenting what they're creating and showing the problem solving skills to be able, through the presentation of these portfolios. National Science Foundation is also looking into this around, is that an effective way to do that? We're also seeing a big shift in universities accepting these portfolios as, hey, instead of transcripts, you're showing me all the work, and that shows me the proof in the pudding of whether you're a good collegiate student or, for our university. And we're seeing kind of these push-pull effects, right? Schools are not going to respond unless someone says it. We're seeing government interested in changing, like, how do we evaluate some of these like mindsets and skill sets for the future that are not content-based. You're also seeing pull from universities saying, hey, I'm willing to take this over that, so you need to change what you're evaluating at K-12. So I think we're in a right movement space where there's growth in portfolio-based assessment. You have partners in InventEd around the University of Iowa that's also been looking at different evaluation systems to say, hey, show me the projects, and we can break it down on these different particular skill sets around critical thinking and problem solving, and be able to put it back real time, what is a student growing in these or not. So I think there's opportunities out there, but it is an area of, Erin probably could talk about the research group and what they're trying to do, build a field of saying, hey, we need new tools to do this work, because content is not the sole focus of assessment and evaluation. That's not going to be what the skills of jobs of the future need. We need skill sets and mindsets that can translate across any discipline and any job. But if those are not there, we'll have a hard time with preparing our students.
I might just add that this is a particular topic area that we are working toward facilitating some more conversations around for the entire network, so that we can all be sort of learning together and sort of building on each other's experiences. David referenced the InventEd research working group, which is a group of researchers in Invention Education who are doing some of those deep dives into multiple topic areas, including assessment and evaluation, recognizing that there's a lot more work to be done in this space and work to be done to learn together. So definitely this is sort of front and center on our radar to be bringing folks together from around the network to be continuing the learning process.
Very good. I just want to tell you, I'm as a personal note, I'm very excited having this conversation, and I obviously have known you for a while. I feel like I'm at Kitty Hawk, and I'm watching the Wright brothers unload their truck and start to assemble their plane. And I know that any moment now, this is going to be the beginning of a tremendous flight and the beginning of a new future for everybody. So, you know, I'm waving and cheering, so keep working.
It's a good place to be. I think you know, in 15 or 20 years, when my grandchildren are old enough to be out in the workforce, and they're going, "What do you mean they didn't used to teach this?"
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good place to be to watch it grow. And having been in the youth innovation space for about the last 19 years myself, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 7 years ago, when parents would say after the Ohio Invention Convention, "So what's next?" And there was nothing next. There just wasn't. I mean, there were robotics programs out there. There were a few programs here and there, but they weren't widely accessible. And a lot has happened in just that short time. So I'm really excited about seeing what happens in the next few years and watching it become as important as it should be.
Thank you both. I mean, it is exciting. I mean, I'll tell you, I've been in this really long time. I started off as a program who knew nothing around invention. I was doing STEM-based programming. And when I started reaching out around who's doing invention, who's doing Invention Ed, it's like, okay, what is this thing, right? But it's grown where it's not even just around individual programs operating a corner of a country or a teacher in the back of the school quietly doing something before they get caught. It really is more mainstream, like I said, at both federal, but you're seeing internationally. You're seeing it in all the respective countries you support, where it's not so much, there might be some competitiveness there, but it is around, we got big problems to solve. And unless we're creating that new generation who's going to solve it, we are going to be in a dire need. At the end of the day, we're all in a snow globe, and everything one country does affects the other. And so we are going to need these creative thinkers to help us for the future. So I think it's an exciting and opportunistic time to get involved. Invention Ed to help build the field, because that's exactly what we're doing, and also advocating at the same time for this, for more resources, for more opportunities. So it's not an outside after school program, that it is in school and after school, and it's an elementary, middle, high, college. So there is a continuous pathway for individuals who care about these issues to be able to have the capacity to build those skill sets and mindsets over time. So it's an amazing time.
Yeah, I agree. I would just say that, we need more voices, talking about invention education and advocating for it. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity in front of us, and to be able to get more people involved and engaged and participating in these conversations and thinking about building this field. The time is now. So we so appreciate this opportunity to connect with your audience today, to sort of share this opportunity to get to dive in deeper and get more involved in building this space.
Well, you not only have an opportunity, frankly, you have a challenge. We have to get this done.
Yeah.
And as David said, you just can't memorize facts and think you're educated. That's not going to work in the next few years. Yeah. So this is critical. I'm sorry. We'll put pressure on you, but I'm sorry. It's done.
And I feel the pressure
when he starts doing that. So what do you need? What does InventEd need? If there's anybody out there listening today that just is totally inspired by this and really wants to help, what kind of help do you need?
I think, it's a little bit what I was just talking about, like more voices, more folks at the table, contributing to conversations, bringing their knowledge and experience and perspectives to build this field, to be working collaboratively with others to do that research, to build out new resources, to really be thinking about what are the tenets of invention education, how do we flesh that out further, and then to be sharing, honestly, to be sharing testimonials, and that's really from you know, not just program providers and teachers, but we want to hear from students too. Frankly, they're the best advocates for invention education, for students to be advocating to other students about their experience and sort of what they're learning. You know, I think this is potentially on the verge of becoming a movement. In order to do that, we need that engagement and that those voices to come to the table and participate.
So with that in mind, what is the best way for somebody to reach you?
Great segue. So, you know, inventioneducation.org is our website. You know, we have resources there on the site to explore. You can also sign up for our newsletter where we provide, you know, updates on events and calls and or what's going on in the network. That's where we have case studies and testimonials. The website is undergoing a bit of a refresh this summer to feature more network members to sort of showcase, you know, the breadth and depth of this network. And we're working towards building a member database as well for people who do want to get engaged and want to be able to connect with others to be looking for collaborations. The second thing, so in addition to inventioneducation.org, I would also highlight we're on social media, just like everybody else. We have a Twitter site, InventEd, as well as LinkedIn. And I referenced all those webinars we're going to be starting this fall. So that's a great place to go to see some posts about those webinars, get a little bit more detail and when they're happening, and get registered to join.
You're doing an awful lot of stuff, so I encourage everybody to go out and sign up for the newsletter. I'm on it, and I don't know how I would keep everything straight that you're doing. For teachers who are interested in participating in the Twitter, is it the Twitter webinars you're doing? Is that what you're calling it? Twitter webinars? Would they be going to your site and finding something there they can express interest?
Yes, so that will be happening in early November. We don't have registration. We don't have information up on it yet, but we will soon as we sort of flesh out some more of those details. But you know, definitely be checking in on our Twitter site. We'll probably post something on inventioneducation.org as well. And then I'll be sharing out, you know, sort of posts and invitations to both of you and to everybody else, just to get the word out on it. So definitely, there will be plenty of opportunities to learn more about it and participate.
Wonderful. I feel inspired that good things are happening.
Well, thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Oh, you're welcome anytime at all that you'd like to come back and talk. And you know, the Global Innovation Field Trip in October, you know, if you have the opportunity to sign up and present, we would love you to present. And if you're looking for just a domestic US audience, just do it during time zones that would make sense for the domestic US, because most of our friends from abroad are not up at, 3 a.m. our time or their time watching our shows. So everybody pretty much sticks to hours that make sense to them. But we'd love to have you there. You could do a 10 or a 20-minute presentation and just kind of give an update. By then, some of these things will have passed and some will be in full swing, and you'll be getting ready for others. So it'd be a good time to step in and give an update if you'd like. And then it ends up as a separate video segment on our website that's there for eternity and reference for people later.
Yeah, that sounds good. Definitely send information. Be happy to do a presentation, but hopefully by then some things will have happened, but then we'll have new things to talk about. So would be more than happy to present.
Yeah,
I don't know about having it up for eternity, but
well, for as long as I'm available, it will be there.
Okay.
Well, I just want to make sure I thank you both, Julie and Jake, for everything you're doing for the Innovation World Alliance. I mean, pulling together all these communities together who care. My vision for InventEd when I first thought about it is that it takes a village. And so thanks for creating a global village for all of us to have this conversation.
Oh, our pleasure, our pleasure. And it's so nice to surround yourself with other people trying to make the same kind of impact. We're making little impacts here and there, but to commune together to do it, it really just makes so much bigger difference when you have other people to collaborate with on it. We found that both here and abroad as well. And there's so many people trying to do the same things. We're just little bitty patches of us. So it's nice. It's nice to work together. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I've been watching you guys for a while. I've gone to the convening, but you're so much more than just that. So I appreciate the walkthrough of, and I'm sure you didn't touch on everything, but so much more of what you do. Just thank you very much.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you for joining us today for the Innovation World podcast. Innovation World is your go-to source for all things innovation, invention, and entrepreneurship. Our website is www.innovationworld.org.